Taking a look at the equity index futures today, I want to focus on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ had a pretty volatile session today, actually. We saw almost a 1% range when you look at the NASDAQ futures, settling just up slightly on the day. But when you look at the range today, we saw some heavy selling after initially opening higher this morning. We saw the NASDAQ futures lower. Then we saw them regain ground, actually push to new highs this afternoon, and then selling off, almost giving up all those gains late in the day as we continue to see some of the dynamics within the marketplace playing out. And certainly when you look at some of the driving factors today, I think you have to look at the earnings announcements that are coming out. Now, Apple earnings overnight were very strong. That helped the NASDAQ push higher. We also saw some other stocks within the NASDAQ reacting positively to some news or expectations. And that was helping the NASDAQ actually outpace most of the other major averages futures today, better than 2-to-1. But then as we move towards the close, we did see that that spread narrow, actually, and we actually saw the S&P futures and the Russell futures lower on the day, while the Dow and the NASDAQ futures finished just slightly higher on the day. And looking at the trends within the marketplace, I think you got to focus on a couple things here. We are seeing, once again, the NASDAQ actually filled that gap, which I thought was interesting. We saw the gap open lower on Monday. Now, the last couple of days, we were able to fill that gap, but now it does appear that there's some possible resistance there. And now we're pushing back down towards the lower end of what would be perceived as a very steep trend line. But there's no question when you look back at the trend from the October lows, we really haven't challenged it too significantly, and this is about as hard a challenge that we've seen to that uptrend. So it is pretty critical here that the NASDAQ hold these levels, because if we see the NASDAQ give up another 0.5% or more, that in theory would break this steep uptrend and possibly put it at risk of going down to testing that 50-day moving average, which is quite a bit lower from these levels. So again, some volatile session today. We saw a lot of activity in the futures, and NASDAQ futures slightly outpacing the other major average futures on the day.